senior middleware admin working in a product-based company, right? And apart from working in a product-based company, I'm also a professional trainer. I train on multiple tools, application servers and web servers, like WebSphere, WebLogic, JBoss, and Apache, Apache Tomcat, Nginx. So this is my specialization. And apart from this, um, yes, I also work on DevOps operations. I mean, from the middleware perspective, so creating the images for containerization and running the containers, administering them, managing them, deploying the applications. Yeah, so that's my profile, and I have provided training for uh, a lot of candidates from very good MNCs, and a few of them needed support on advanced administration, configuration, troubleshooting, and security part, performance tuning. So yeah, the the idea is like you know uh, only providing the subject knowledge is not enough for, because everyone is not on the same level, right? So some people need some push up or some guidance or some knowledge transfer so that they can work on higher level tasks and understand uh, their responsibility if they are getting a new position, and how to work in a team where you need to interact with multiple teams and get the work done. So, if, for example, if you are shared with a vulnerability report, the VAPT, pen test report, so that report may contain vulnerabilities not only related to the middleware software or the applications deployed on it, but also it may contain the operating system level or the network level or database level. So different levels. It depends upon the testing and the tool used for vulnerability testing. So these kinds of tasks will be categorized, and it will be done as a group task, so yeah, uh, these all things we are going to discuss in this L3 level training. And i was I was trying to jot down some points what we can discuss. You are able to see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. Fine. So, okay, great. So, this is for, you know, you can say it is L1, L2, and L3, because, you know, if you restart it is L1, if you find out the issue it is L2, and if you find the root cause and fix it, that is going to be L3. And yeah, so getting into the root cause and finding out the issue and fixing the issue, that is what we need. And in terms of performance, right, so there are many parameter, many places where you can fetch and collect the data and find the root of the issue. and you should provide a solution to fix the issue. So in order to get that capability of understanding the logs and understanding the data you have collected on any tool, irrespective of any middleware tool, uh, that for that you need to have some advanced knowledge, understanding of your application and your tool that you are working, and the mechanisms and some procedures, the different methods uh, and different tools and utilities to collect the data. So these all things we are going to discuss, right? So how to enhance the this is a rough thing, but yes, there are many things I could not add up here. We will have it in the course, but then this is going to be the heart of the course, like we'll discuss now. So, enhancing the WebSphere performance by caching, load balancing, high availability strategies, and how to monitor the performance. That is a big deal, right? So as I said, collecting the data. So monitoring is part of collecting the data. So how do you monitor? If there is a monitoring tool in your environment, that is well and good. And if there is no tool, then how do you use the existing resources to monitor the performance? One example I'd like to give is performance monitoring infrastructure, which is inbuilt with the WebSphere software package. And once you monitor how to tune it, what are the different methods and what are the parameters, and once you understand once you understand and by analyzing the collected data, how do you tune it? So these are the few things that I have added up here. So garbage collection tuning to optimize the JVM performance by adjusting GC policies. So what is the importance of garbage collection in JVM performance tuning? So that plays a very important role. Sometimes it may impact your application performance, and again it depends upon the type of application and the system resources and the how you tune the Java heap. So based on the requirement, you will adjust the GC. There are different types of GC. Yeah, I have added it here. So um, first of all, we'll understand, in order to work and understand the GC logs and GC, before doing the GC tuning, we need to know how exactly the heap memory works. It is not only on WebSphere, but uh, it is generic concept like the architecture of Java heap. So there will be heap memory and non-heap. Again, there will be different segments under heap memory, like young generation and old generation. Young generation, again, there are sub-segments, hidden space, survivor spaces, and all. So yes, to go to deep dive into monitoring these segments, you can have out of memory exception anywhere in these segments. So you need to have a monitoring tool, or you need to know how to find out where exactly the out of memory is, the OOM exception is getting triggered. So we'll understand the JVM heap parameters and garbage collection policies that can be applied on a WebSphere. We will see some real-time WebSphere tuning scenarios along with case study and scenarios. So why I added scenarios and the case study here is, as part of the administration and configuration and tuning in our practical sessions, we may not get the same issues uh, that we get in the real-time production environments. So in order to understand uh, in which places or in which type of scenarios what type of GC to be applied and how to tune those GC uh, that is applied. You can also apply sometimes, you can also apply multiple GC policies. You know, multiple GC policies can be applied for different segments of Java heap. So that is, for that we will take a case and study the scenario, understand the existing issue, and what type of parameters and what type of formula can be formed uh, and applied as a fix to the performance issue. So we will do the case study and based on scenario. So there are some tools to monitor GC and Java heap size parameters. It is a deep dive, and these parameters, like we'll add some uh, thresholds, like application pause, timeouts, time, and number of GC maintenance threads. It is a deep dive. So because sometimes the maintenance threads, the GC maintenance threads may also cause the application pauses, which will again impact the business. So we need to be very cautious while you know applying the GC policies and the tuning the GC maintenance threads. And again, in order to tune these GC maintenance threads based on the policy, we need to know our system resources, like the current RAM on your server and number of CPUs. So there are some rules to be followed uh, depending upon number of CPUs and depending upon the RAM size, how you can tune up the, yeah, this is at operating system level. So based on the operating system level system resources, how do you tune the GC maintenance and the thread pools? When it comes to threads, we'll have to consider the CPUs on as well, and for heap we will consider RAM. So there are some techniques and we can say formulas based on the current system resources of your operating system, how to tune the Java heap and how to tune the GC. So that falls under additional WebSphere tuning parameters, like string deduplication, heap. We will also do heap dump analysis, and we will set up some mechanisms like automatically capturing heap dump when you find any deviation in the heap. And verbose GC logging, we'll see how to configure it, and JVM heap and GC tuning in JBoss. I think this is for Preetham, because he inquired about the performance tuning on different tools. So when it comes to JBoss, there are different modes, as we know, standalone mode and domain mode for multi-server clusters and for single server deployments. We'll see how to do, how to manage the Java heap and garbage collection on both the modes. And also there is an option like we can tune some parameters in the runtime using JBoss CLI. If you don't want to restart, because whenever you do any changes in the Java heap or garbage collection, in order to take that effect on your in order to reflect that effect on your server, you need to restart it. It is a mandatory thing. But in JBoss, dynamically you can apply few changes using JBoss CLI that will be directly applied on your server. So again, JVM heap size parameters in JBoss, GC policies in JBoss, additional thing, and a list of list of GC policies in JDK 8. So the reason why I mentioned JDK 8 is um, most of our application servers like WebSphere, WebLogic, and JBoss, these use JDK 8. And when it comes to the upgraded releases, WebLogic or WebLogic, there is 14.1.2 released. I think it needs JDK advanced version 11 or 14, I guess. So the reason why I mentioned here in JDK 8 is um, based on the JDK version, the GC policies and few parameters will change. So for example, if you take JDK 1.6 or 1.7, there are few things uh, that has got changed. Like the non-heap memory, uh, it is changed to metaspace. And one more GC policy, I think CMS, concurrent mark and sweep, that is not included in JDK 14, right? So explanation of each GC policy in JDK 8 and where to use and in which scenario. So it depends upon the requirement, the type of application. For example, this also depends on the type of application, if it is a enterprise application or using different beans, like the Java beans, session beans, message driven beans, stateful and stateless. These all are required for different types of applications. For example, for message queuing, the message driven beans will be used, and for RMI over IIOP calls, the ORB is used, right? And yeah, so each one has got a different thread pool as well. So based on the thread pools and based on the scenario, there will be different applications like web applications, enterprise applications, RESTful APIs, and maybe there will be some batch processing running in the background, which are very slow. So depending upon the type of application, what type of GC can be applied. So that we will see along with the scenario and examples. Again, how to monitor and optimize the GC performance. Yes, survival ratios along with formula and example. We'll take some calculations. We'll consider the RAM and we'll consider the XMS and XMX and form a formula uh, based on the monitoring report. So there is a parameter called survival ratio, and this survival ratio is very important to optimize the heap memory for efficiency. So in the heap, always the objects get created and it gets transitioned to from one segment to another segment, and this transition depends on the type of application and the load. So sometimes your hidden space will get out of memory if it is not properly given the survival ratio,
Yes.
right? Yeah, yeah. So those cases we will study and how to form the formula uh, for survival ratios. So sometimes you may get if you observe the GC logs, uh, you can see the minor GC happening a lot, or sometimes major GC is happening a lot. So if major GC is happening a lot, that may impact your application and it may pause your application. So in that situation, uh, how to tune that major GC and how to make it not to impact your application with the uh, application pause. So we'll reduce the um, seconds for application pause in milliseconds, not in the seconds, right? So those things we will understand here. And Java argument for survivor ratio configuration, and what are the best practices for survivor ratio tuning. So once we understand the formula and uh, for and how we configure and where we configure and what are the methods to configure, we will derive like what are the best practices for different kinds of applications. And yeah, how to configure and real world impact of survivor ratio tuning. And then after we'll go for thread pool optimization in WebSphere. So how thread pools work actually in WebSphere, starting from the IO, uh, receiving the request, and each request getting allotted with a thread and some memory to create the objects in the heap. So that all entire thing, the workflow until the response is sent to the front end server or directly to the client or some other server. So how thread pools work in WebSphere, how thread pools impact the heap usage, how to tune thread pools for performance, and real-time case studies on thread optimization, right? So how to tune the thread pools? Again, there are three major things. So web container, if HTTP requests are slow, and ORB thread pool if EJB or RMI calls are delayed, and messaging engine if JMS is configured and it is running slow. So yes, as I said earlier, we will learn about session manage sorry the beans, session beans, different types of beans. So once you understand that concept, you will be able to uh, monitor the sessions, and based on that monitoring data, you can tune these thread pools in WebSphere. So tune the thread stack size to optimize the the memory usage. So as I said, each and every thread will consume some part of heap for execution process and to store the information. It directly or indirectly it may impact your heap memory. So how do you, some threads may occupy most of your heap memory. So for example, there is a stuck thread or there is a memory leak that is caused by some poor application code. So it may consume. So I have seen like in one of the heap dump and thread dump analysis, I have seen like 60% of heap was consumed by a stuck thread, right? So how do we optimize memory usage? By tuning the thread stack size. So we can use some parameters to manage the thread stack size. So monitoring the thread usage and optimizing real world case studies with regards to thread pool tuning. And yeah, there are two scenarios, mostly asked questions. Why should XMS and XMX be the same in production? Or why should XMS and XMX be different? So if you answer the first question, you will get the second question. Or if you answer the second question, you will again get the first question as an answer. So we will understand these two questions. Um, it has some explanation. So how to set the heap memory? That is the most common thing you do in when you get out of memory exception in the logs. It is a first and temporary solution to fix the OOM, but then again we need to go back here. Uh, so tuning different parameters of JVM. So tuning the connection pool parameters in WebSphere application server, which contributes a lot uh, in performance tuning. So each and every application these days has a backend database to store the data or to store the sessions, uh, or sometimes your application may have multiple databases depending upon the scenarios. For example, if you take e-commerce application, Amazon, it may have multiple databases in the backend. So for the users, customers, to maintain the customer's profile, it can save the data in MySQL, and for the seller's details, the products, the items, it may store the data in the Oracle database. And for uh, banking transactions and all these things, it can save those accounting and financial data in some other database or some other CRM. So yeah, this one contributes a lot, and we will see how the thread pool and how the thread consumes the connection pool, the connection object from the connection pool, and how this impacts the heap as well, right? So there may be different types of connection objects in the connection pool, uh, just like the thread. These connection objects are also reusable and predefined for reusability, right? So it has different states. The connection objects have different states. It can stay for very long in connection pool, and it may not immediately come into active state. So there are different states, and we will see all those parameters and the thresholds, how to tune and optimize and reuse the connection pool. So once we understand the connection pooling, then key connection pool parameters and configuring those parameters and tuning connection pool with a real-time in real-world examples. Also, advanced connection pool tuning, uh, we will see advanced, like there are many parameters, and there are different scenarios. What if the database has some network delays? So how do you handle that? So what if the connections are failing to connect to the database in production? So what do you do at that time? But not all the connections are failing, but few connections are failing. So at that time, how do you handle that situation? So that is advanced connection pool tuning. So we can use the existing resources of WebSphere for automated monitoring of connection pool usage, right? So we can write some scripts and best practices and script to monitor connection pool usage and automated connection pool tuning with scheduled execution using cron tabs. And now comes the sessions, HTTP sessions, and monitoring HTTP sessions using WS admin, optimizing session management, configuring timeout for inactive sessions, enabling database persistent sessions for failover in the cluster environment, managing session replications in the clusters, automating session monitoring and alerts. So yeah, you can do that. If there are some inactive sessions, or if there are some sessions that are living in the server for a longer time, you can schedule the alerts. So we'll do a case study for a large e-commerce website uh, for session tuning. So best practices for session management and end to end. So it starts from generating the key pair. We'll understand what is the importance, first of all, of SSL or TLS, and why it is required, how it works, and different tools to configure SSL. So only for WAS, only in WAS there is IKeyman, E command line, and you can use OpenSSL, you can use GSK, CMD, and in the backend application server you can use admin admin console, right? So these are the methods, these are the different utilities and tools you can use along with key tool, key tool utility, and you can also use an open source utility which is um, Keystone. It is a GUI. You can also use this one. So different tools to configure, and we will understand the certificates, different types of certificates, and there is, there is root, intermediate, there is a server certificate. It is somewhat confusing. These are the normal generic names of certificates, but when it comes to WebSphere, you will see something like personal certificate, signer certificate. So these terms will be somewhat confusing. Like, and again, when it comes to WebSphere, there is a key store and there is trust store. But in WebLogic, it is key store and identity store and trust store, right? So different terminology, and yes, you can use a single key store uh, as well. So one more thing, where to store the keys, where to store your private key, and where to store your certificates. So we'll see that one as well. And when it comes to WAS application server SSL configuration, has different settings. We call it as SSL settings. By normally it is default, which will adapt the cell level, cell scope. Whatever is applied on the cell will be adapted by the internal components, internal WebSphere resources like application servers or node agents, nodes. So if you have different applications on different nodes and these nodes are federated with the DMGR, so you need to configure different certificates on different nodes. At that time, you need to change the SSL settings, right? So once you change the SSL settings and your DMGR may not communicate with the node because it may not trust the node. So what to do in those cases? And SSL handshake. This SSL handshake is mostly we know about client and server, but there are few things like server to server. We'll see that. And what else? Yeah, SSL, CA, different types of SSL certificates, CA certificates, self, client, and demo certificates. Uh, and after this, yeah, different CAs, and what is the role of intermediate certificate, and how your server certificate is trusted by the browser. So we'll see that one. It will be part of SSL handshake. And yes, vulnerabilities and certificate renewal process. Different method. There are different methods to do this. And SSL common issues like the most common is expiry, and how to do that we'll see in the renewal process, and vulnerabilities related to ciphers or